It's been a minute since I've done one of these, so I'm going to introduce myself. Not like you don't know me or watching the video. I'm Mike Puerco Betts, and this is Alamo Okara. See? Right there. Right there. Um, in the realm of what I do, in the grand scheme, um, maces, gatas, they're simple implements, right? But for beginners, it's very overwhelming and it's very intimidating. And so I get asked the question a lot, um, how do I get started? What do I do to get started? And so I always tell people that, especially if you're on a budget, right? There shouldn't be expensive products out there for people that can't afford them, but really want them. Back in the day when Bowflex first came out, there was like a grand for like the system or something like that in the 90s. But fast forward a ton of years, and here we are to the present. And not to say that the manufacturing of these particular things are cheap, but the prices of them have gone down because people can probably afford them in a way, but not always. So aside from making your own, let's say a got traditional one, this one. So this is the ones I made, right? And this is a, a gallon-sized pickle container from a catering gig I did. I don't know. I've had this probably about 5 or 6 years. It's one of the first ones I made, and it was the mold, right? So I filled it with concrete as well as put the stick in it. It became one of my first gatas, and I love it. I still use it today. You can buy yourself a gallon jug, like at Hobby Lobby or restaurant supply stores, things like that. You can buy yourself a gallon container, something with a large mouth on it, so you can pour concrete in it. And it just takes some getting used to. There are instructional videos on these things, and there are booklets on these things. I suggest trying the Sorensen Strong site because the Sorensens are good people, and they make gatas, and they have a little ebook on making your own gata, and they do an exceptional job. So I've got nothing against them, and I was making mine before they started this book, so it was a trial and error for me. I had to figure it out as I went. But let's say you live in an apartment, you live in a rented home, and you don't have access to tools or to materials or whatever. That is very valid, and it is very common. So what I suggest to everybody is when they start is to get something that they know they can use, double purpose it, right? And so I did this to myself. Is I was like, oh, what can I use in place of a gata or a mace, which I didn't have access to at the time. When I first started this, I got one of these. This is a 10-pound sledgehammer, right? And I got it at Harbor Freight for like $12. It's a Harbor Freight thing, so it's going to be cheap and a knockoff of something else. But is it effective? Yes. It is a very good way to get started, right? And 10 pounds is nothing, especially when you get used to it, right? You do the switch. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And it's, you work your way up. And there was a time in which I couldn't even do that. So everybody has to start out somewhere. On the cheap, buy yourself something that you know you're going to use for something else. Sledgehammer can be useful in, I don't know, defending the realm, whatever. The same thing goes for, let's say, a sledgehammer is too heavy, 10 to 12 pounds, or you can buy yourself a smaller one, obviously. But that one comes with a plastic handle and, design. I use it all the time for stuff around the house or up at the sites. So let's say you can't practice with that. That's fine. get something smaller, and you can. What I suggest if you're trying light is an axe, another Harbor Freight find for, I think I got this for like $10 10 years ago, something like that. And this is a standard axe for chopping wood. There's nothing fancy about it. I do say so. This particular axe altogether weight is 4 pounds, probably 4.5 if extension of the handle. And you can easily do the exact same things you can, right? It just takes some getting used to. And people are gonna be like, "Oh, why do you have this axe?" And then you can ask, retaliate with, "Why do you have to ask so many dumbass questions?" So, I do suggest you dull. If you're not going to use it for what its purpose, chopping trees down, if you're afraid of it, dull this up. This isn't dull for me because I use it for actually the purpose of it. But it is a great way to start, especially if you're unsure. So many people get involved in the fitness industry. They get involved when they're not 100% knowledgeable on something, but they want to consider themselves a master. They'd rather start at the bottom but skip ahead to an intermediate level instead of working their way through that. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying, it's who you connect yourself to, who's giving you advice. This is easy. Getting something like that, super easy. Getting this sledgehammer, whoop, super easy, right? So, I mean, this is my rant, is that, the industry is flooded with multi-million-dollar schemes, grandiose associations that have a figure of a false promise of making people great. And obviously it's a niche type of thing. So it's how you perceive it, how you use it, all those things are common. If you can't get yourself the implement, let's say through Amazon, right? We can all get a mace through Amazon. Let's say you're still unsure. Go to your local Walmart, go to a Home Depot, go to a Harbor Freight. If you have the right attitude and you have a passion for it, don't let those things stop you from achieving those things. So many people want to do it, are afraid to ask, or when they do ask and they get the answer, they don't like the answer they hear, and so they fizzle out. So, I mean, I can count on 10 times my entire life growing up where my parents would buy something, never use it, and get rid of it, like a year later. So, you have to have the right mindset, have the right influences, and also have a good imagination. If I would, when I heard I could make my own maces, I nearly flipped my shit. Because I was like, that is so simple. Why didn't I think of that? That's really how that goes. So, actually, let me back up. So, the gallon jug, you get about a 20-pound mace out of it, right? One of my first ones that I made was, of course, the jack-o'-lantern. And again, you could get these at Halloween sales at your Walmart. They'll sell them for like a dime. If you're unsure, get yourself one of those. So, I mean, it's a matter of how you want to go about it. And there are so many different areas and so many different people that say something different. But if you are on a budget and you want to start but don't know how, start very small. But dream really big. You're going to have to go through the motions in order, one, for to better your knowledge of it, and two, be able to express your interest and your knowledge of said subject. So, to recap, so I don't, go overboard, you're on a budget, you want to learn how to use mace, Buy a sledgehammer. Simple, easy, to the point. Remember, I will leave myself open for questions and comments, but I'm sure there's going to be a laundry list of people going, blah, 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 blah. So, that being said, that's all I got for the moment. I will post more frequently these things. Ooh, new announcements are coming up. Today is the 18th of May. In the next coming days, next week could be like 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, next week, April. We're in, I said May earlier, I meant to say April. I'll be making a few announcements, some of them big, some of them small, but you gotta tune in for all that stuff. I don't like to ramble too much. So anyway, if you're unaware, this is the Alamo Cara, and if you also weren't aware, I'm Porco Betts, and so we'll see y'all later.